what we see over time is that most markets go through a series of stages. There's a startup stage, the high G is the high growth stage, then there's maturity stage, stability, and if we took it out a little bit further, decline. Now the question that I ask the students is, where's the best place to enter? And they now know it's high growth. At first, some people said startup. But the problem with entering in startup is that you have to spend a lot of money learning how to build the product, educating the customer, so your learning curve is very steep. And then the people who enter after you take advantage of that, and they get in at a much lower cost and usually with a better product. So ideally, the best place to enter is right here at high growth. And the best place to exit is right here when the demand curve starts to flatten out. Because during this time of the curve going up, we can charge high prices. And as the curve starts to flatten, that means there's a lot more competitors, and the prices go down and the margins get squeezed. So this is what we call our window of opportunity. Now the other thing I told the students is a dirty little secret of professors. You guys know what our dirty little secret is? We're historians. So I can tell you exactly when this happens in any industry that you tell me, as long as it's already happened. I can't tell you in advance. So if you're an entrepreneur, the key thing to keep in mind is that this relationship usually holds. And you need to anticipate when you think that window is opening and when it might be closing. And you're likely going to miss it a little bit each way, and that's okay. And I also tell my students, if they're interested in retail, just recognize where you are on that curve. And what it means when you're up above that window of opportunity or when you're down below it, the risks are higher, and you have a lower margin of error. And if you understand that relationship, hopefully you'll make better decisions and be successful. Our last M is margin analysis. And what we love to see is high gross margins of 40% or better. And just as a reminder, gross margins are revenue minus cost of goods sold. We like to see net income margins of 10% or better. Again, these are the ideals. If you're a little bit less, quite a bit less, your margin of error is constrained. What we hope to find is that we can hit break even in 1 to 2 years. We know that most new businesses are going to lose money in the first few years as they try to build up infrastructure to provide for the customers. So I tell my students this. You know you're fluent in another language when you dream in that language. And I think you're fluent in opportunity recognition when every idea that comes across your mind, you start thinking of these 3 M's. And you start judging how it stacks up on these 3 M's. And if it's more attractive, it means you have a better chance of getting in and succeeding. And so again, the 3 M's are market demand, market size and structure, and margin analysis. That's only part of the overall equation. The other thing we need to keep in mind are resources. All new businesses need them. And the key is not to be driven by resources. I like to think of minimize and control versus maximize and own. Minimize and control versus maximize and own. I like to shout that because this is really, really important. Now, I set this example to my students earlier, but for those of you who have flown on an airplane, how many of you have ever flown on a jet airplane? Raise your hand. Don't have to be shy. And anyway, in the United States, if you're flying on a jet airplane, the flight attendant will come on and she'll say, you have 10 minutes until landing. Turn off your iPod, turn off your computer, straighten up your seat, lift up the table, and basically sit there and stare straight ahead. Because the person sitting next to you, you don't like. And you don't have anything to read. And so what do? Well, for many people, they'll pick up the Sky Mall magazine. You know, that thing that sells all that crazy stuff like the Super Duper Captain for Pick Her Up. And they're trying to make sure that you buy something. Now, originally, Sky Mall was following a maximize and own strategy. His original idea was this. If you call up on the airplane phone and say, hey, yeah, this is Mr. Zacharakis, I'd like a super duper cat pooper picker upper. He'd say, yes, sir, Mr. Zacharakis, we'll have it right for you. And then when we land at the airport, he would come running and hand me the super duper cat picker upper so I could take it right home then and there and have instant gratification. Now, there's a problem with this strategy. First, it costs a lot of money to set up the system because you have to buy inventory all over the world. You have to have warehouses at every airport. You have to have a lot of personnel at every airport. His first airport was the Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. It cost him $25 million just to set up a mid-sized airport in the United States. Think about how much that would take to roll out. Impossible. The second thing is, he didn't really understand his competitive advantage. Now, I don't know about you, but I am the family Sherpa. When we go flying together as a family, I have to get my luggage. I have to get my wife's luggage. I'm unfortunate, I have 2 daughters, so I have to get their luggage. We know women pack a heck of a lot more luggage than men. And so when I'm walking out of the airport, I am like Igor trying to lug all this stuff out. If somebody comes up to me and says, hey, here's your super duper cat pooper picker upper, I'm going to take the cosmetic bag and just whack them in the face. The key thing that I want is to have that product shortly thereafter. So if he would have that delivered by Federal Express, UPS, and I get it in 24 hours or 48 hours, I'd be happy. And the good news is that business model costs a lot less because Sky Mall doesn't have to ship the product. They just have to call the people who actually make the super duper cat pooper picker upper, and they'll ship it directly from their warehouse. And their competitive advantage isn't all the products in the magazine. Their competitive advantage is that they have the exclusive right for the seat pocket in front of you on that airplane. No other magazine can get in there and sell you junk. All right? And so, what they have been able to do is get a lot of people to advertise in them, and they've been highly successful for the last 15 years. This is probably the most creative part of entrepreneurship. Now, I want to go a little deeper in resources, because people often ask, where do we get the money to start a venture? And these are the primary sources. Most new ventures cannot get bank debt because they don't have collateral, they have no assets. They don't have strong cash flows because they haven't sold anything, so they can't get loans against accounts receivable. So they have to get equity investment. And if we think about where the equity comes from, it can come from any one of these sources. Your personal wallet, hopefully your co-founders, your friends and family, or what's called the 3 F's. Friends, family, and fools. And faculty are in that category too, I think. And angels, these are entrepreneurs who have been successful in the industry that you're interested in. They often invest their own money in entrepreneurs. Or venture capitalists who are professional investors who will invest in the businesses they think have great potential. The trade-off is that as you go down this list, the people don't trust you as much. They don't know you as well. And so they're likely to exert greater control. And so they'll give you money that will ask for a great deal of equity in return. They'll have certain provisions that limit what you can do as an entrepreneur. And they will keep a very, very close eye on day-to-day activity.